operator for the River City Arc Slow Scan TV Net. This net serves for training and practice in image transmission modes and meets Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. on the N6NA repeater on 441.30 megahertz. River City Arc's members and all licensed radio amateurs are welcome to participate. If you wish to join the net or need to make a call at any time, please announce your call sign between transmissions and net control will acknowledge you. If an emergency should arise and you need the repeater, please contact net control by saying break break. A double break signifies emergency traffic. The net will stand by for you until the emergency is terminated or the traffic is moved to another frequency. Stations who wish to check in are asked to respond with their full call sign using the recognized ITU phonetic alphabet and their name. I'll recognize each station before continuing. Any station who wishes to check into the net, please come now.
Kilo 6 Alpha Victor Bravo.
Alpha India 6 Delta Golf.
November 6 Whiskey Lima Mike.
November 6 Papa Golf Quebec.
This is Kilo Papa 4 Mike Delta.
All right, we have K6AVB, AI6DG, Joel, N6WLM, Bill, N6PGQ, Bob, KB4MD, Carol, the Kilo 6 Alpha Victor Bravo station. What's your name, please?
Yeah, the name here is Jacob, and I'm located in Auburn. And is my signal pretty clear tonight?
It's very clear. Yeah, I'm glad you're joining us, Jacob. Really good signal. So thank you for joining us. Who else would like to join us tonight? Please come now. All right. Well, we usually go in the order received. So, Jacob, you're first. Are you ready to transmit an image, K6AVB?
Yeah, I have an image to transmit. I'm going to stick my microphone to the cell phone here. So, yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right, let's go. Let's see what you got. We're glad you're joining us.
All right, this should be PD 120. Here we go.
Jacob, I have to say I'm impressed. Acoustic coupling doesn't always work that well, and the picture came through great. Let's get some comments on it. Joel, AI6DG, did you copy the picture?
Yes, very excellent reception. Very little ghosting, maybe a slight amount. Relatively few pops. So however you're doing the coupling, it's definitely working quite well. If you're in room, we're definitely not hearing room echo on it, or very minimal. Happy family, husband on the left, wife on the right, toddler in the center between the two of them. K6 AVP. Back to net, AI6TG.
Thanks, Joel. I'm going to take a guess, Jacob, that this is a Christmas card. Bill, how did you copy Jacob's transmission, N6WLM? This is AE6JG.
Yeah, very good reception here. There's pixel pops, but for audio coupling, it looks really good. I'm impressed. It does look like a Christmas card. I was going to guess the same thing because there's a winter backdrop, and there's no Santa in the photo, though, so I'm not sure where this was taken. I wonder if it was actually snowing or not, where this was taken, or if it was like some kind of event. So I guess we'll find out. And yeah, N6WLM, back to net.
Thanks, Bill. Jacob, K6AVB, tell us about this.
Yeah, this is just my family. We took this picture last week at a little Christmas get-together for my work. And so that's my daughter, Liberty, in the middle, and my wife, Marcia, over there on the other side. And yeah, we are a happy family. We're expecting one more come February, another little girl, so we got to find a name for her. It's going to be kind of hard to match the name Liberty. So, yep, that's our family. Back to net.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jacob. Very nice. And we're really happy you can join us. Let's see, Joel, AI6DG, are you ready to go?
Was there tone? Was there a tone?
Yeah, that was good, Joel.
PD 120.
All right, thanks, Joel. I had a nice, clean copy come through. Bob, N6PGQ, comments on Joel's photo.
Well, it looks like a really nice photo. Of course, there's the black bars on the top and the bottom. Very few pixel pops. You can notice them in the sky. Looks like a path up to a fire lookout station, and it may or may not be automated. It's got a few antennas on the left side. I'll be interested to know where it is. N6PGQ.
All right, thanks, Bob. Carol, KP4MD, comments on Joel's photo. Oh, before you do that, let me welcome Craig, Whiskey Papa 2 November from Louisiana, who's watching on YouTube, and Larry, Kilo November 6, Bravo, Kilo, Bravo. Thanks for joining us, Larry. And let's get back to Carol, KP4MD.
Okay, this is KP4MD, and this picture came through very well. I want to comment also, Jacob's picture was absolutely wonderful for an acoustically coupled picture. That was excellent. This one is absolutely clear. Maybe, I don't know if there's even a dozen small pixel pops, hard to notice. And looks like this is the like a top of a mountain, some kind of a lookout. I don't know if this would be Mount Diablo. I just don't recognize. I don't know what that top looks like very much over there. But this looks like the top of a mountain, like a tower, a watchtower up there. Very nice. But I couldn't say where it is. I know that I really admire Joel for doing a lot of outdoorsman mountain climbing and stuff like that. So back to Nets, KP4MD.
Kim?
Thanks, Carol. Joel, AI6DG.
So this was a couple of years ago during that eclipse, that total eclipse that came across the U.S. Starting in Oregon, because this is up in Oregon. It started in hitting the U.S. and Oregon and went across and down. This is Watchman Fire Lookout at Crater Lake in Oregon, and I'm actually looking the wrong direction. You're looking at the fire lookout, and the path comes up, actually off to the left, comes up into this location. The fire lookout is no longer in use and was closed. I do not know how they actually spot fires now, so I don't know if there's anything up there running or if it's done elsewhere in some other way. You can kind of see some signs, placards of what you're looking at, 2 to the left and 1 to the right, and people sitting around. The real view is behind me, which is Crater Lake. This is a really short hike from a nice section of the road where you're looking down across the lake. So the road's behind me, you're looking across the lake, and at the road. So it's less than a mile hike and not too terribly high in elevation, so it's relatively easy to get to. Unfortunately, if you were around back then and might remember, during that eclipse there were fires all over the place. So this entire trip driving up from Sacramento up to Oregon and back was stock full of fires and smoke, and there was actually a fire off out of camera view off to the right, where you could see the smoke coming up off of a fire. I don't think I ever saw actual fire. And at the start of the day when I first got to the lake, you couldn't even see across the lake basin. There was so much smoke, and it never did clear out very well. Made for a beautiful sunset the day before this, driving down the road and caught in a traffic jam as everyone was trying to go home from the eclipse. There was so much smoke looking off to the west. It made for a beautiful sunset. But terrible viewing at this particular day at Crater Lake when I was playing tourist. Back to Net, AI6DG.
Thanks, Joel. Very interesting. Any questions for Joel about that?
Check in.
Oh, that sounds like NR6H. Is that right?
Roger, Roger. Apologize for my tardiness. I had some technical goofiness going on here, but I am rocking and rolling. So if you add me to the end of the list, I'll be delighted. NR6H.
Thanks for joining us, Anders, NR6H. This is AE6JG Net Control for the River City Arc Slow Scan TV Wednesday night. A net, Slow Scan TV Net. Bill, N6WLM, it's your turn. Yeah, you have tone.
Thank you. This is going to be PD120, N6WLM.
All right, thanks, Bill. Well, all I see is RF disturbance on wheels, but I know it's a much more fun story than that. Bob, N6PGQ, comment please on N6WLM's photo.
Well, I kind of recognize this subject of the photo. Quite a few pixel pops. Of course, most of the background and everything is dark. We have a picture of a Roseville fire truck going by some homes. On the back is a snowman, and the truck is all decorated in bright lights. They would usually drive around the neighborhood honking their horn and blowing the siren, or the other way around, and would kind of make a festive mood right after you figured out there wasn't a fire across the street. So it's a nice picture, and it reminds me of when I lived in the city of Roseville, N6PGQ.
Thanks, Bob. I'm going to ask Anders to comment on this, but I also want to remind our YouTube viewers, Craig and Larry, you are also very welcome to comment on the photos through the online chat if you'd like to. Okay, Anders, NR6H, comments on Bill's photo.
I did receive it after my technical snafus here. I've got everything to to play, and I did receive the picture, a very clear picture, however, just like Bob said, a lot of pixel pops spread out, but with the dark background, they are very apparent. The Roseville fire truck is there with all the lights and the trainee fireman on the back there. He can just sit on it, I guess, to make sure the fire goes out. The Folsom has something like this also. They usually take a whole bunch of fire trucks and the cop cars and everything, and they drive a few laps around town and make a lot of noise. I don't know which day that is. I always manage to miss it. I hear it from work. It's usually just after dark, so they I haven't got out from my office yet to see it, but I always hear it, and sounds like fun. So something like that is going on in Roseville, I think. And R6H, back to net.
Thanks, Anders. Bill, N6WLM.
Yeah, great guesses. This is a part of a small, I guess you could call it a parade. This is called the Neighborhood Santa event. So the City of Roseville, for like 2 weeks, will do, they'll have 2 separate fire trucks run through Roseville, and police escort, and then behind the fire truck, all lit up, is Santa. So we were able to go out and brave the cold with the little one. She's 6 months now, so we wanted to see if she enjoyed seeing the lights and would wave at Santa. She was not impressed. She did like the lights, though, but Santa, maybe next year she'll be more excited. So it's a fun event, and it's a nice family fun. You briefly stand out in the cold, and then you go back in your car and drive away. And luckily, they have tracking of Santa with various tools online, and they actually publish the route. So it's a good event for the family. Anyways, that's what I did a few days ago. N6WLM, back to net.
Thanks for that, Bill. That sounds fun. Yeah, we'll have to get a report next year on what your daughter thinks about Santa. Bob, N6PGQ, your turn.
Okay, this should be PD120 and 6PGQ.
Thanks, Bob. That's a really interesting contraption. This is AE6JG. I have the repeater ID right in the middle of it, but the rest of the image, just a few pops around, but rest of the image is really good, actually, really good. Let me ask Jacob, K6AVB, Jacob in Auburn, did that come through for you?
Yeah, this is K6AVB, Jacob in Auburn. I've got a clear picture here. There's some pops, and like you, I've got a string across the middle, but other than that, I'm just scratching my head trying to figure out what it does. There's a crank on top, so looks like it might be some kind of hand crank generator or something, but it also kind of looks like a radio. So I'm not sure. Maybe I'm not old enough. K6AVB.
That's possible, but that would mean I'm not old enough either. Joel, AI6DG.
So we got a well-lit tabletop with all kinds of stuff sitting around on it. I see a tall, thin can on the left. It could be for equipment, or it could be water, or something. I can't quite read the label. We've got a couple of sheets of paper on the table surface in front of that, and the big yellow radio that's in the center of the photo. Lower right, we've got another can with, I find this amusing, with the break-off twisty thing that you then use to open the can. So as I remember, it's got the key's got a slot in it that you line up with a tab on the top of the can, and there's a band all the way around it that you just twist the key, and it undoes the top of the can. I don't know what that is on the right, but there's a piece of gear in a teal case, and in the center is a big yellow something with knobs and buttons and a big crank on the top, and it's kind of a weird hourglass shape, and that's an emergency transmitter for like a lifeboat or a plane if it's gone down. And you put that between your legs, and you crank the heck out of the top of it. And I'm assuming somewhere there's also an antenna wire that you put on it. And maybe that's actually what's in that can on the left. Yeah, old style stuff, and I'm sure that whoever used it and got rescued as a result was glad to have it. Back to net, AI6DG.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, I see the emergency life transmitter, the words on the bottom center. Hey, Bob, N6PGQ, tell us about this, and was it actually ever used in real life?
Well, this particular contraption was not used. It was available to be used. And what you guys have said is actually quite correct. It's an emergency transmitter, and it's got a knob on it that you can turn from automatic to manual. And the automatic sends a SOS, and the manual, you would plug your key into it, and there's a little chart on the radio that gives you the Morse code characters, and you can send your location. The cans are hydrogen generators, and it would come with a balloon, and you would fill the balloon with the hydrogen and get it up in the air so that you have an antenna. And these were used, as was mentioned, with lifeboats and ships that had run out of power and are ready to sink. So this was at the KPH site that we visited today. They have a whole bunch of really kind of interesting things, and I grabbed a snapshot of this one, and here it is, N6PGQ.
Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I just got to find the right button here to talk. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I saw that as well, and I actually recognized that from a Fair Radio sales catalog that I saw like back in the 1970s. They were called Gibson Girl transmitters. They were vintage of World War II, and they were in lifeboats. And just like Joel said, you'd crank that, and hopefully it was on an emergency frequency, and hopefully any aircraft flying overhead would pick it up and be able to zero in and locate you and be able to rescue you. This was actually copied by the Allied forces from a design that was originally captured in some German boats. So this was not an original American design, but it was actually a German invention that the Allies thought was great. So they actually imitated it. Back to Netscape, Fremdi.
That is really fascinating. I look forward to hearing more about your trip to Point Reyes today to look at that new SDR transmitter. Any questions for Bob or Carol about this before we move to Carol? KB4MD, AE6JG, it's your turn. All right, well, let's go with Anders, NR6H. What do you see?
A picture was received, although very pixel poppy. It's quite noisy across the whole. It's spread evenly over the whole image. No IDs or anything, but just a lot of pixel pops. And it is a picture kind of slanted on its side here, not technically, but the camera was turned left quite a bit. So we're seeing somebody sitting in a chair here. Behind the person, we see a rack of printers and blue old-style terminals of some form. And then a little workbench and a laptop that looks like it's running Smart SDR maybe. And then the person is working on some connector or some little cable of some form in front of a big box that looks like a power distribution box or maybe a networking box. Or maybe those are actually thin coax cables in there, gold-colored coax cables. Not quite sure what that is, but that's what I see. NR6H, back to net.
Thank you. Bill, N6WLM, how did you copy?
A fair amount of pixel pops, but a very good photo still. It looks like a gentleman in front of something. I assume it has to do with the Port Reyes visit. I see a lot of what looks like maybe coax connections. I can't tell, or those just wire terminals in this large metal box that he seems to be working on. Has a lot of blue and red wires on the bottom there that's plugged into it. Some of them are illuminated, and there seems to be quite the bank of something looks like computers in the back. So I'm interested to see what this is. N6WLM back to net.
Thanks, Bill. Carol, KP4MD, who are we looking at? We assume it's from your field trip today. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this is KP4MD. The gentleman there, his name is Rob, Alpha India 6 Victor November. He lives over in the Bay Area. He actually lives in Half Moon Bay. And he maintains the web SDRs at KFS and also the ones over at Point Reyes, KPH. And in this picture, he's actually working on the web SDR. He has in front of him there that little, it's a little rolling rack mount cabinet. And in there, you see those blue and red wires. Those are Ethernet cables going into Kiwi SDR software-defined radio receivers. There's a couple other new ones which are called RX 888s, but you can't really tell them. They're kind of black, and they're to the left of that row of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. You only see 6 of the Kiwis. There's actually 8 of them in there. Those are the little rectangular silver things in the lower right-hand corner. In the top of that rolling cabinet, you see all of those coaxial cables. Those are going into a 1-to-8 splitter, which comes from the receive antenna, the gigantic receive antenna over there at KPH. Comes in through a when it comes in through the wall, it goes through a 23 dB amplification, and then it comes to this splitter, and it splits among all of these different web SDRs. And there's a whole row of 4 fans. You may be able to see them just underneath the splitter there, and those are constantly cooling the Kiwi receivers. So he's in the process of adding a 6 meter receiver to the bank of receivers there. So that's what it is. The people behind the web SDRs that you use on the internet, and he is actually using that laptop computer to work on that 6 meter receiver, and it's running the Kiwi SDR web client. So back to nets, KP4MD.
Thanks, Carol. KP4MD AE6JG. That's fascinating. What a trip. That would have been fun to go on. Any questions for Carol or Bob about their trip today?
Question.
Go ahead.
So in front on the lower right's the new stuff. I'm actually interested in the stuff in the background, the older stuff. Is that older stuff? Because it almost looks like Okadata 83 dot matrix printers. I don't know what those terminals are, but what's the stuff in the background in the racks? Because it looks to be duplicated in 1, 2, 3, at least 4 times.
Oh yes, absolutely. I neglected to mention that's the historical part. This room was set up for all kind of maritime traffic on all the different maritime frequencies they were using, like 4 megahertz, 8 megahertz, 12 megahertz. And those are the terminals that they used back up until around 1990 when they finally decommissioned it. They left everything exactly the way it was with the those Okadata printers and those old-style CRTs and keyboards. And everything was automated. There's another rack that you don't see. It's over to the right that has the SITOR, SITOR terminals, which works very similar to AmTOR. It's teletype over radio, and I don't know if it transmitted like about 100 baud or something like that. And that's the room that they did, and they would, since they were required to log all of the traffic they received, they had to save every single roll of paper that those printers spit out. And that was required. So it was interesting. We had a really good docent who is a volunteer that works there with the Maritime Radio Historical Society, that's in collaboration with the National Park Service. So he gave all the stories behind this, and it was quite a great tour that he gave, very informative. He knew everything about this stuff. Back to net, KP Fremdy.
Thanks, Carol. Any other questions before we move to, I guess me, and then Anders? Any other questions on this before we move? All right. Here I go. This will be PD 120. All right, Bob, N6PGQ, comments?
Well, interesting picture. A few pixel pops, not too many, especially considering how dark it is. Well, I don't know. It looks like somebody's got a stand with two monitors on it, and an antenna rotor or something to that effect on the bottom left. Looks like some gear on a table. Interesting picture with the blue background and everything. Looks like there's a handheld on the right on the table. I have no idea what the gear is. Going to be interesting to hear. N6PGQ.
Thanks, Bob. Anders, NR6H.
Well, if I didn't know better, I would say that this is an upgrade or to AE6JG shack, maybe. But the monitors have the wrong dimension, and there are a few pieces of gear there that I didn't see last time I was over there. So maybe it's not. But yeah, like Bob said, it's a dark picture. It looks like the whole rig and the whole setup is in an aquarium. But that would be bad, so I don't think that's the case. But there is a radio at the bottom there, definitely a transceiver at the bottom there, maybe an FT710, and then a monitor up to two monitors showing that screen from the 710 or whatever it is, and then yeah, a bunch of other gear. So interesting setup for sure. Looks like a cozy place to be. This and a cup of coffee in the morning would be awesome. And R6H, back to net.
Thanks. Jacob, K6AVB. Did you get this?
Yeah, this is Jacob, K6AVB, and I got a great image over here. It's just dark, like as has been said, and similar comments to the rest. It does look, it's very teal. I don't know if it's just old wallpaper or what's going on there, but yeah, I see the two screens reflecting the radio's display, which is nice if you have tired eyes. And yeah, it looks like a compass on the left for a directional antenna, some handy talkies on the right, fancy desk lamp, and yeah, it looks like a setup I'd like to have. Back to Net.
Thanks. Well, I wish it was the AE6JG Shack, but it's not. This is a picture I took off the screen from a new Netflix movie called Leave the World Behind. So, you all may want to watch that movie. I'll explain what I see. Yes, it's got a rotator on the left, an ICOM 5100 next to that, an Yaesu FTM 400 next to that. Underneath is I think a 101, a Yaesu 101. Next to that, on the right now, is the FTDX10. Above that is I think it's Comet, who makes that meter. That up above, there's the handhelds and double screen. And what I'm not showing you is what the screen on the right is about to say in the movie. So the movie is Leave the World Behind, and I thought, of course I got very excited. My wife actually did too, because she sort of recognized some of the equipment. Any questions? This is AE6JG.
What kind of movie? Thriller, action, what is it?
Suspense. I would say suspense about world events.
Right, you're keeping us in suspense, so I guess I had to look it up. Thanks for that, an R6H.
Julia Roberts is in it. You'll recognize many of the actors. It's an interesting movie. Definitely worth watching for free if you have a Netflix subscription. And it's fun for us because of this last scene. Any other questions? What I was thinking is somebody who works in props, when they were putting the scene together, ran to HRO and bought all this equipment, and then they gave it to the crew afterwards. That's my guess. All right, NR6H Anders, it's your turn to transmit.
Okay, I gotta start working the movies, I guess. So, this will go fast. Robot 36. Let's see if this works.
Well, that was fast, but it came through really well. I mean, the quality is good. We need to hear more about Happy Santa Lucia Day. Joel, AI6DG.
Season's greeting. It's not just Christmas. It's a holiday season with other events than Christmas, and this is attests to that. I don't. So happy Santa Lucia Day, and a couple of characters standing, smiling. A hat with candles. A a rod with a star at the top, and holding out a tray of probably cookies. The only thing I don't understand is the 500 in the lower right, but I'm sure we'll find out in a moment. And yes, it's always amazing, these alternate formats, just how quickly and how well they come across. Back to Net, AI6DG.
Thanks, Joel. Let me check with Jacob, because you're doing the acoustic coupling, K6AVB. Did that come through for you?
Oh yeah, that I'm using Robot 36 on my Android, and that came through great. That's a high quality picture, not very many pops, and I was really impressed with the speed of that. And yeah, I'm guessing maybe it's been 500 years of Santa Lucia Day, or whatever that is, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. K6AVB, back to Net.
Thanks, Jacob. Bill, N6WLM, how'd you copy it?
Yeah, great copy here. I only see maybe 5 or 6 pixel pops, so great copy, especially for such a fast mode. And I like the graphics, but I don't know what St. Lucia Day is. So what's the 500 represent also? So it'd be interesting to hear more about that. N6WLM.
Thanks, Bill. This is AE6JG to Anders NR6H. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so happy Santa Lucia Day. That is today. It is always on December 13th, and it is when Swedes celebrate the light in the darkness, because right now is a very dark time of the year in Sweden. Obviously, mid-December and going through mid-January, it's going to be super dark. And so a little bit of extra light helps, so therefore we them celebrate Santa Lucia Day. So Lucia is this girl there. She has candles over her head like that. They carry candles with her. What the little guy with the pointy hat is all about, I have no idea. That is just one of those mix-ins that Swedish culture has thrown in. Lucia herself was, believe it or not, an Italian saint. And started this tradition, started out sometime in the late 1800s, so it's not a super old tradition, but it's really weird. The story about Lucia, if you start reading up on that in history, it's terrible. She was promised a way to be married, and there was incompatible religions, and she poked her eyes out and got stabbed with a spear, and they lit her on fire, and hence the light in her hair, I guess. So that's very strange how it all ended up being singing and processions in white gowns with light in her hair. If you want to see the Swedish procession of Lucia break, I would recommend you go to the Google and punch in SVT play, so SVT Sierra Victor Tango Papa Lima Alpha Yankee, so SVT play and Lucia. Type in those 2 words and click the video that comes up there. You're going to see what Lucia is all about. It's singing, and you will recognize many of the songs, not all of them, because some of them have Swedish text, but many of them are definitely international in flavor. The 500 is something completely different. It is 2023, and it is 500 years ago that Sweden became an independent nation. So this year we celebrate that Gustav Vasa was elected the king in Sweden, and he broke off the union with Denmark and Norway and made Sweden an independent country. That was in 1523. So Sweden is a little more than double the age of the U.S. That's how things are. NR6H, back to Net.
Thanks, Anders. That was a great explanation. Thank you for that. I find it interesting that there's a story that is not a pleasant story that ends up being celebrated using light or candles, actually similar to Hanukkah, for example, with the war and the Maccabees and all that, and then we end up, celebrating a joyful, fun holiday of light. So kind of interesting. Thanks for explaining all of that. Any questions for Anders before I close the net? All right. Well, I want to thank Larry and Craig who watched us on YouTube tonight. And thanks to everybody who participated in tonight's Slow Scan TV Net. We hope to see you again next Wednesday at 9. The net is officially closed at 9:56 p.m. This is James, Alpha Echo 6 Juliet Golf, wishing all of you a good evening. Thanks, everybody. That was good.